I remember when class ended, I ended up going to my locker and I ended up seeing 2 police officers and my high school principal trying to open my locker. And I start to panic until I realized that my teacher that hated my guts planted something extremely illegal inside my locker. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy, but I gotta say, insane story. This story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was actually my grade 11 year. Now, in grade 11, there was one class I took that was my favorite class of all time, and it was actually my debate class. I don't know what it was about debating, but back in high school, debating with other people was like one of the skills that I actually really enjoyed. And I think I enjoyed it so much because at that time, my favorite teacher was actually my debate teacher that would teach us how to debate. It was super fun and really engaging, and it really taught me a lot of ways to communicate with others. But then for some reason, sometime in the middle of the school year, I remember the teacher comes up in front of the classroom and says, "Okay, class, real quick, I just want to say my wife's having a child and I'm not going to be here for a long time. So honestly, we're going to be giving you guys a substitute. You guys got to be nice to her. She's a great teacher. She knows how to debate just like I do. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the school year." I remember the whole class ended up saying, "Aw," because a lot of us did actually really like this teacher. But then afterwards, the bell rang and on to the next day it happened. Now, a lot of people weren't worried about our new teacher. And to be honest, I never really cared about substitutes. I never saw it as a really big deal or a worry, to be honest, until I ended up meeting our new substitute teacher that came in for our debate class. Because I remember the next day when I walked inside that classroom, I ended up showing up a bit late because I ended up forgetting my textbooks for another class I had. And I remember when I walked inside the classroom 2 minutes after the bell rang, I ended up seeing this teacher stand up as she sees me walk in saying, "Excuse me, what's your name?" My name is Bubba." "Okay, well, Bubba, do you normally show up late for class? Is that like a normal thing to do for you?" No, I just forgot my textbook for another classroom." "Okay, well, you're in my class right now, so there was no need to get that textbook. Okay, you understand?" Yeah, sure, whatever you want," is what I said to her, kind of not caring. And I went up to my buddy that was in the same class as me, dabbed him up with our handshake that we had, and sat down next to him. And when the substitute teacher saw that I did a handshake with him and sat down next to him as if nothing bad happened, she ends up looking at me saying, "Okay, no, I'm not allowing this." "What? Not allowing what?" "Baba, stand up for me real quick." Okay, why?" Because you're tardy and you don't get to sit next to your friends as if nothing happened." At that moment, I ended up asking the basic question of, "Yo, like, are you good?" And that's when this teacher ended up going off the rails. I don't know how, I don't know why, but she ended up just saying to me right after, "Yeah, I'm good. You know what's gonna make me better? You having detention after school today." At that moment, I just looked at her once again and I'm like, "Bro, what's your problem?" And that's when she ends up going off once again, saying something extremely outlandish, saying, "My problem is that you can go to the principal's office and find out." At that moment, the whole class just ends up going, "Ooh." And I'm just super confused on what in the world I just did. But I remember I ended up just leaving the classroom and went and sat at the principal's office. When I went to the principal's office, I ended up sitting outside of his office actually because he wasn't even there in the first place for me to go see. And I ended up sitting outside of his office for 2 hours. No joke, I literally missed 2 different classes that I had to go to. And when my principal finally walked into the office, he ended up looking at me super confused on why I was there and said to me, Bubba, is there a reason you're here right now?" I thought, you know what? No, never mind. Sorry. I thought something was going on. And I ended up walking out of there. If the teacher didn't even inform him that I was going to be there, why should I have a sit-down conversation with him if he doesn't even know what's going on? But me being super annoyed about that, things got a lot worse the next day. Because the next day, I remember when I entered inside the classroom of my debate class, the teacher ended up seeing me once again. And I didn't show up late this time, by the way. I showed up on time. But the moment when she saw me walk into the classroom, she got super upset and super annoyed. But I tried to ignore her and basically ended up going to my seat. But the one problem was that my seat wasn't there. The seat that I sat in the day before ended up totally just disappearing. I was super confused until I ended up sitting into a different desk. But then that's when the substitute teacher ended up standing up, being extremely mad at me and saying to me, "Bubba, that's not your desk. Your desk is actually outside in the hallway." At that moment, I was super confused on why in the world my desk was in the hallway. But I ended up basically saying to her, why is my desk in the hallway? Like, aren't I supposed to learn inside the classroom?" "Oh yeah, you'll learn after you learn your lesson about being a good student. Now you go sit outside like a dog." At that moment, I just ended up going to sit outside. And as I sat in the desk in the hallway, I just felt like a stupid idiot. No joke, like my feelings and like my mind was just upset the entire time. I was so upset to the point where I ended up just watching YouTube on my phone to pass the time. But just my luck, out of nowhere, my principal ends up walking down the school hallway that I was sitting in, and he looks at me, he's totally confused on why my desk was outside, saying to me, "Excuse me, Bubba, why are you sitting outside right now?" "Honestly, if I could tell you, I would," is what I told him. And he ended up looking at me super confused, tilting his head over, and that's when he ended up walking inside the debate classroom. And when he walked inside, he ended up up calling my teacher saying, excuse me, miss, can I talk to you for a second? Yeah, of course, principal, is what she says. And she ends up coming outside the classroom where I was sitting and my principal was waiting. She ends up looking at me and the principal, and she looks at us and says, is there a problem? Yeah, I'm just curious. Why is Bubba sitting outside? Shouldn't he be inside the classroom? Oh, well, I made him sit outside because he wasn't being a good student. At that point, the principal looked at me and said, Bubba, what'd you do? I really actually don't know. Ask her, is what I said. And that's when the principal looked over at the substitute teacher, and the substitute teacher didn't even say a word. She was just dead silent, just staring at me and the principal super awkwardly. At that moment, the principal ended up looking at me straight in the eyes to see if I was, gonna show any signs that I was lying, but in reality, I wasn't. I really didn't do anything wrong. And then the principal ends up saying to me, Bubba, get your desk and go sit inside. And as for you, ma'am, teach him a lesson. He's here to learn, not to sit outside like a dog. And he continues to walk down the hallway. But as the principal is walking away, I remember this teacher ends up whispering in my ear, Bubba, I hope you know, snitches get stitches. And she walks inside the classroom before I did. I was super annoyed that she said that because she's acting like I snitched on her when in reality, it was just pure coincidence that the principal was walking in his own school. I don't know why she was blaming me, but honestly, she needs some serious help. But when I went back inside the classroom to learn and do, debates, no one wanted to work with me or debate with me because everyone wanted to make sure that they were on the good side of the teacher and not the bad side like I was. But the next day is when things finally went overboard. Because the next morning when I went to school, I remember I went inside my locker first to make sure I dropped off some things. But as I was dropping off things in my locker, the teacher that hated my guts ended up walking by, seeing me at my locker. She walks up to me and says to me, Bubba, I hope you know I don't want any bad blood, okay? I want to be, a healthy relationship between me and all my students. So let's just clean the slate, okay? I believe you're a good student and I hope you can do better. At that moment, I didn't really know if that was really an apology or her just trying to get on my nerves again, but I ended up just saying, yeah, okay. And I ended up closing my locker and walking away. I remember at that moment, she ended up just still staying at my locker, but I didn't want to look back because I wanted to do a dramatic exit. But honestly, I wish I didn't, because even though that whole school day went super well and it was actually one of the more calmer days in the school year, I remember after school when the bell rang, I ended up going to my locker. And when I got there, I ended up seeing my principal and 2 police officers going into my locker. I was super confused on why. When I started walking up to my locker, I remember there was a police dog that ended up barking at me. And that's when my principal ends up saying, Bubba, I need you to stay right there. You understand me, son? Do not move. He sounded really serious and I was confused on why, until one of the cops ended up pulling out something in my locker that was on the floor of my locker, by the way. And it was a bag of the devil's sugar. Yeah, I'm not going to say exactly what it was, but if you guys know, you know. And I remember I ended up looking at my principal saying, that's not mine. I swear that's not mine. But the cop already started walking up to me and handcuffing me saying, yeah, we got to talk about this in the station, son. And I ended up going to the police station. I remember my parents got involved and I remember I kept telling the cop that it wasn't mine, but he thought I was a total addict, to the point where I ended up telling him, officer, I'll take any test. I swear it's not mine. And when the officer finally ended up making me do a blood test, he realized that I wasn't actually using. He was super confused until I ended up having a theory. I had a theory that it was my teacher that planted it because she was in the hallway laughing the entire time when it was going down. So the next day when I went to school, I ended up going to her desk right away when she wasn't there, and I opened the first drawer I saw. And when I opened that drawer, you know what I saw? I saw the same bag of devil's sugar. And I knew it was my teacher that planted it. So the first thing I did, well, like she said, snitches get stitches. And this time, I don't mind getting some stitches. So I ran straight to my principal's office, told the principal, and cops got involved and got her arrested that day. But I mean, hey, if you guys don't believe the story is real, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.